बोल दो सब बोलने वाला हूँ। Okay, so hello everybody, good morning and welcome back to the EduphoreIAS, the Hindu analysis class. Today we'll be starting first with the 12th of August questions, fine, जो कि आपको दिए गए थे, 2 questions from the prelims exam point of view, fine. वो हम देखेंगे पहले आंसर्स उनके, आई होप कि आप सब लोगों ने उसको सॉल्व करने की कोशिश एटलीस्ट की होगी, ठीक है. एंड आफ्टर दैट हम हिंदू डिस्कस करेंगे इन डिटेल एंड फिर से हम आज से जो क्वेश्चंस बनते हैं आपके वो 2 क्वेश्चंस आपको दिए जाएंगे एज अ होमवर्क, ठीक है. चलो, सो क्विकली व्हाट इज द करेक्ट आंसर फॉर दिस क्वेश्चन? एनी आइडिया, एनीवन? इज द करेक्ट आंसर फॉर दिस क्वेश्चन? फर्स्ट, the index of industrial production is measure of the rate of growth in the economy's various industry groups over a given time period. Yes. Second, Ministry of Commerce and Industry computes and publishes the IIP index on a monthly basis. Remember, first statement is correct. Second is, it's not a Ministry of Commerce and Industry, rather it's CSO, Central Statistics Office, or now you can say NSO. Fine. Third is, currently the IIP index is calculated using this as a base year. So base year for this index is not 2010, 2011, but rather it's 2011 and 12. So therefore, we are left with just one statement correct, second wrong, third wrong. Means only one pair is correct. Fine. So the answer for this question is only one pair correct. Second देखते हैं हम. This is okay. Second is, the G20 was formed in 1999 in the backdrop of the financial crisis of late 1990s, South Asian and all. It aims to secure global financial stability by involving middle income countries. बिल्कुल ठीक है, ये भी ठीक है. Italy, Indonesia and India, 3 I's are the Troika. Troika means 3 countries, 3 members. Countries right now, and India hosts the current presidency. Now remember, the issue with this third statement is not the complete statement as such, but the first half of the statement, and that is related to the troikas. Troika वो 3 countries होती है basically आपके G20 में, जो past president रह चुकी है just before the current one and the next upcoming president जो होने वाला है. तो जो करंट ट्रोइका है वो जो 3 कंट्रीज हैं इस लाइन में, वो इटली, इंडोनेशिया एंड इंडिया ना होके इंडोनेशिया, इंडिया एंड ब्राजील है. नेक्स्ट जो 2024 में G20 समिट होने वाली है, दैट इज इन रियो डी जेनेरियो, ब्राजील. सो यहाँ पे इशू है कि आपकी इटली नहीं है. इटली तो इंडोनेशिया से भी पहले प्रेसिडेंट था इसका G20 का. सो ऑफ कोर्स इटली तो हो ही नहीं सकता. तो इंडोनेशिया जो कि पहले प्रेसिडेंट लास्ट ईयर प्रेसिडेंसी जो थी G20 की, दैट वाज विद इंडोनेशिया. दिस ईयर की करंट जो है वो इंडिया के पास है. नेक्स्ट ईयर जो होगी वो किसके पास होगी? ब्राजील के पास. तो इसलिए 3 ट्रोइका कंट्रीज है, इंडिया, इंडोनेशिया, इंडिया एंड ब्राजील, नॉट इटली. देयरफॉर थर्ड इज रॉन्ग. तो इस क्वेश्चन से आपके 2 स्टेटमेंट्स करेक्ट हैं, 1 एंड 2. सो ओनली 2 पेयर्स आर करेक्ट फॉर द सेकंड क्वेश्चन. ठीक है, दैट्स इट अबाउट द 2 क्वेश्चन. यस, चलो अब हम स्टार्ट करते हैं अपनी डिस्कशन एंड फिर हम आज से जो क्वेश्चंस हैं रिलेटेड टू हिंदू वो हम देखेंगे. फाइन. So quickly, the date is 14th of August. Fine. 14th of August and the first page of Hindu. Current page, front page. So starting with, Kerala retains parts deleted by NCERT in textbook. ठीक है. तो ऑफ कोर्स इसके पीछे भी काफी सारी पॉलिटिक्स है. ठीक, तो केरला ने जो रिटेन बनाए रखा है जो पार्ट्स एक्चुअली एनसीईआरटी ने डिलीट कर दी थी एनसीईआरटी बुक से. ठीक है, चलो जी. 14 states yet to join education scheme. ठीक है. सो पीएम उषा योजना जो है, अंडर द पीएम उषा, उषा इज व्हाट? उषा इज प्रधानमंत्री उच्चतर, एस इज शिक्षा अभियान, ए इज अभियान. ठीक है. दिस focus districts should be identified to improve the overall quality of higher educational institutions. द चैलेंज मेथड ऑफ सिलेक्शन ऑफ डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स इन्वॉल्व 3 स्टेजेस। फोकस जो पीएम उषा किया कि उन डिस्ट्रिक्ट पे फोकस किया जाए जो कि और आइडेंटिफाई किया जाए जहां पे कि ओवरऑल क्वालिटी ऑफ हायर एजुकेशन जो है उसको इंप्रूव किया जा सके अक्रॉस द स्टेट्स, अक्रॉस इंडिया यू कैन से। बट इसके आइडेंटिफिकेशन में 3 सिलेक्शन ऑफ डिस्ट्रिक्ट किस बेसिस पे होंगे उसके लिए 3 स्टेजेस हैं इसमें, ठीक है। 3 नंबर 1 इज the states and union territories sign an MOU with the Union Education Ministry with a commitment on implementation of NEP National Education Policy 2020 reforms. This is number 1. MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. Second stage is the state governments will shortlist universities, colleges and districts. Third stage, the ministry will evaluate the proposals and then send them for approval by Project Approval Board. So this is how in the third 3 stages a district will get selected under this PM Usha fine for improving the higher education this higher education at the level of districts in the states. So Kerala, Tamil Nadu and West Bengal are among the 14 states. Mostly you see the opposition states आपको देखने को मिलेंगी and union territories which are yet to sign a crucial MOU with the Union Education Ministry. Fine. रिजर्वेशन क्या है? रिजर्वेशन ये है कि मोस्ट ऑफ द नॉन बीजेपी रूल्ड स्टेट्स और ऑपोजिशन स्टेट्स ये कह रही हैं दे हैव एक्चुअली रेज्ड द कंसर्न्स अबाउट द एमओयू गिवन दैट 40% ऑफ द प्रधानमंत्री उच्चतर शिक्षा योजना अभियान पीएम उषा बजट मस्ट बी borne by the states themselves and no extra funds have been earmarked for NEP reforms. तो इशू यहाँ पे है that is related to the funding. ठीक है कि 40% जो है फंडिंग वो तो स्टेट्स को खुद ही मोबिलाइज करनी होगी, ठीक है, एंड प्लस देयर हैज नो एक्स्ट्रा फंड्स बीन ईयरमार्क्ड फॉर एनईपी रिफॉर्म्स जो कि इस मिनिस्ट्री प्रपोज कर रही है, ठीक है, न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी के अंडर 2020। तो ये इश्यूज हैं जिसकी वजह से कि कुछ डिफरेंसेस हैं बिटवीन सेंट्रल मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एजुकेशन एंड स्टेट्स गवर्नमेंट, इस वजह से कुछ स्टेट जो है वो इससे बाहर हैं अभी तक। मणिपुर ऑफिशियल्स टोल्ड टू क्विट सोशल मीडिया ग्रुप्स, ठीक है, सो मणिपुर के ऑफिशियल जो हैं ब्यूरोक्रेसी एंड पुलिस, तो इनको कहा गया है कि भाई आप सोशल मीडिया जो है ग्रुप्स हैं वो लीव कर दो, ठीक है। गवर्नमेंट सेज मेंबर्स ऑफ ग्रुप्स दैट फर्दर सेपरेटिस्ट एंटी-नेशनल कम्युनल एंड डिविजिव एजेंडास विल इनवाइट डिसिप्लिनरी एक्शन। तो जो भी इनमें से लोग किसी ऐसे ग्रुप के मेंबर हो गए जो सेपरेटिज्म को प्रमोट करता हो, एंटी नेशनल हो, कम्युनल हो या डिविजिव एजेंडास हो जिनके, उनके खिलाफ एक्शन ली जाएगी, ठीक है, ओके। चलो इसके अलावा एज सच कुछ खास इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं लग रहा है इस पे, तो हम आगे चलते हैं। सिटी पेज अगेन, you know कि tomorrow will be our 76th, we are going to celebrate 76th of Independence Day, 77th in fact mentioned here, 77th Independence Day. So therefore you see the securities had been tightened up in Delhi and across the periphery. So AI cameras, anti-drone systems in place as capital gears up to celebrate Independence Day. Fine. So ये आप just for the sake of आपको पता होना चाहिए। Okay. हाई कोर्ट्स में एक PIL फाइल की गई थी जिसको कि दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट ने एक्चुअली डिसमिस कर दिया है। इसमें यह कहा गया था कि समवेयर एसिड सेल जो है उसको बैन किया जाए बिकॉज एसिड अटैक्स होते हैं, आपने देखा होगा यहाँ पे एसिड अटैक सर्वाइवर्स हैं आपके सामने इस फोटो में, ठीक है, बट इसको रिफ्यूज कर दिया है कोर्ट ने बैन करने से, टोटल बैन। फाइन, so they are saying that is a half-hearted attempts. Okay, now states related is more or less politics only, तो इसको हम clearly skip कर सकते हैं। Okay. So यहाँ पे एक न्यूज है कि साउथ अफ्रीकन फीमेल चीता that went untraceable in the Kuno नेशनल पार्क, जहाँ पे कि रिलोकेशन की गई थी, फाइन, जहाँ पे चीता पॉपुलेशन की कैप्टिव ब्रीडिंग हो रही है इन मध्य प्रदेश शिवपुर डिस्ट्रिक्ट अफेक्ट आफ्टर इट्स रेडियो कॉलर स्टॉप्ड वर्किंग ऑन। सो आफ्टर यू कैन सी नेम क्या है इसकी, निर्वा, ठीक है, इसको ध्यान रखना, निर्वा। चीता, काफी प्रोजेक्ट चीता चल रहा है, साउथ अफ्रीका से कुछ चीता को रिलोकेट करके इंडिया के कुनो नेशनल पार्क में रखा गया है। सो वहाँ पे डेथ भी हो चुकी है 6 चीतास की। सो इसलिए चीता प्रोजेक्ट, चीता जो है दैट इज बिकम्स इंपॉर्टेंट इटसेल्फ एज अ टॉपिक। सो फीमेल चीता हैज बीन फाइनली captured after 22 days of untraceability. What else from the states page? So politics only. Chalo. Finally, we have landed on the editorial page, and first question is related to Pakistan. Let us not go into that. Let us discuss this, which is more important, and that is related to the Dalit Christians exclusion by society, church and state. तो आप लोगों ने न्यूज़ में भी सुना होगा कि दलित क्रिश्चियन रिलेटेड एक काफ़ी न्यूज़ में ये मुद्दा रहा है कि अब इशू क्या है। तो देखो दो चीज़ें हैं यहाँ पे, दलित एंड क्रिश्चियंस, ठीक है। राइटर कह रहे हैं दे हैव बीन एक्सक्लूडेड बाय सोसाइटी, चर्च एज वेल एज बाय स्टेट, ठीक है। सो एक बड़ा ही बैलेंस्ड काइंड ऑफ आर्टिकल है जो कि हमारे लिए काफ़ी यूजफुल भी है। सो सबसे पहले दलित चर्च, दलित नॉट चर्च, सॉरी, क्रिश्चियंस। रिमेंबर, क्रिश्चियनिटी कास्ट के बेस पे डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं करती, ठीक है। So this whole topic is, this article is all about the people, the Dalits, actually the SC community, scheduled caste जिसको आप बोलते हो, जिसको कि दलित बोलते हैं, so in common parlance, so ये जो community है दलित among the Hindus only, ठीक है, ये हिंदूज में ही ये दलित है, ठीक है। ये एक्चुअली कहाँ चले गए हैं, इन्होंने अपना धर्म लगा लो परिवर्तन कर लिया है, एंड नाउ दे हैव व्हाट, एम्ब्रेस क्रिश्चियनिटी इंस्टेड ऑफ बीइंग अ हिंदू, ठीक है। तो द क्रिश्चियनिटी, मैंने कहा कि जो क्रिश्चियनिटी है वो कास्ट के बेस पे डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं करती, एंड जो यहाँ पे दलित की बात हो रही है, कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन की बात हो रही है एक्चुअली सोसाइटी, एंड दिस दलित एक्चुअली हैज बीन इमर्ज्ड फ्रॉम द द लो कास्ट हिंदूज एक्चुअली, ठीक है। सो हिंदू में जो लो कास्ट है दलित, वो एक्चुअली मूव कर गए हैं और उन्होंने अडॉप्ट कर लिया है क्रिश्चियनिटी को। अब मुद्दा ये है कि जो शेड्यूल कास्ट को रिजर्वेशन मिलती होती है हिंदूज में, ठीक है, जो हिंदू में ही है, हिंदुइज्म को ही फॉलो कर रहे हैं, अगर वो चले जाते हैं क्रिश्चियन को अडॉप्ट, क्रिश्चियनिटी को अडॉप्ट कर लेते हैं, तो क्या उनकी रिजर्वेशन मिलनी चाहिए जो शेड्यूल कास्ट को मिलती है, बिकॉज दलित कम्स अंडर शेड्यूल कास्ट ओनली, सो या नहीं मिलनी चाहिए। ये जो दलित क्रिश्चियंस है, इसीलिए इसका नाम दलित क्रिश्चियन, दो डिफरेंट इंटरसेक्शनैलिटी है यहाँ पे, डिफरेंट सेक्शन की बात हो रही है। जो दलित हिंदुइज्म से या हिंदू से मूव करके चले गए हैं क्रिश्चियन में या क्रिश्चियनिटी को अडॉप्ट कर लिया, उनको हम बोलते हैं दलित क्रिश्चियंस। बात समझ गए? चलो, तो हुआ क्या कि इनको अभी तक रिजर्वेशन के फायदे जो है, जो एक शेड्यूल कास्ट को मिलती है, वो नहीं मिल रही, सरकार भी इसको देने को तैयार नहीं है, ठीक है। एंड इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में सरकार ने कुछ कमीशंस बनाए थे, ठीक है, जो कि हमारे लिए एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से इंपॉर्टेंट है। नंबर 1, लास्ट ईयर ही यूनियन गवर्नमेंट ने एक कमीशन फॉर्म की थी, हेडेड बाय द फॉर्मर चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया के.जी. बालाकृष्णन, to study the possibility of granting scheduled caste status to Dalit Christians. Recently, a resolution was adopted by the Tamil Nadu Assembly to amend the 1950 presidential order in this regard. The Justice Ranganathan Mishra Committee 2007 recommended permitting Dalits who converted to Christianity to avail of the reservation benefits under the SC quota, that is scheduled caste quota. So last year गवर्नमेंट ने कमीशन फॉर्म की थी, फॉर्मर इन अंडर द चेयरमैनशिप ऑफ फॉर्मर सीजीआई चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया के.जी. बालाकृष्णन, एंड उससे पहले 2007 में एक कमीशन बनी थी, रंगनाथ मिश्रा कमीशन। उन्होंने भी ये कहा था, उस कमीशन ने भी यही रिकमेंडेशन दी थी कि जो दलित्स हैं, जो कि व्हाट क्रिश्चियनिटी में कन्वर्ट हो गए हैं, कन्वर्टेड दलित्स हैं जो क्रिश्चियनिटी को अडॉप्ट कर लिया जिन्होंने, उनको भी एससी शेड्यूल कास्ट की जो रिजर्वेशन रिलेटेड जो बेनिफिट्स हैं वो देनी चाहिए, ठीक है। Now the next findings arrived by Desh Pandey and Bapna 2008. A study है appointed by the National Commission of Minorities stated that there is no compelling evidence to justify denying them of SC status. Now see, all the three, the two commissions and the study by Deshpande and Bapna, that study was actually, undertaken under the or this even these two people were appointed by the National Commission of Minorities itself, again a government, you can say, this commission. So therefore all these three people or the commissions have said or they are affirmative in their suggestions or recommendations, means all of them do believe कि जो दलित क्रिश्चियंस हैं उनको ये बेनिफिट्स, एससी की जो शेड्यूल कास्ट की बेनिफिट्स हैं वो मिलनी चाहिए, ठीक है, किसी ने भी डिनाई नहीं किया। देन फर्दर इशू क्या है, क्यों ये लोग कन्वर्ट हो गए? So it was Dr. Ambedkar who said, to the untouchables Hinduism is a veritable chamber of horror, ये कहा था। एंड लेटर ऑन आपको पता होगा कि डॉक्टर अंबेडकर ने भी बुद्धिज्म को में कन्वर्ट हो गए थे, बुद्धिज्म को अडॉप्ट कर लिया था। It was to escape this horror of discrimination that millions of Hindu Dalits converted to more egalitarian religions including Christianity in the hope of escaping the clutches of casteism and experiencing the equality promised by such religions. तो ये तो होप थी, बट क्या होप फुलफिल हुई कि नहीं? So the basic argument of this article is that the fundamental hope of equality, the reasons why Hindu Dalits converted to Christianity, has not been realized to a larger extent. ठीक है, तो ये है सारा मुद्दा इस आर्टिकल में। Intersectional burdens. The theory of intersectionality shows that the bigger picture of the Dalit Christian conundrum, as it allows an understanding of caste with religion and a composite understanding of Dalit Christian as Dalits and as a religious minority group. So intersectionality क्या है कि it is a intersection between a caste group and a religion group, between a race and gender, you can say, or between race and this religion. Why? Because Dalit जो है, it is a caste group amongst the Hindu, fine, while Christianity of course is a religion, fine. So therefore there are two different sections we are talking about, and therefore we are talking about in the terms of intersection. Further, there is another framework, and that is called, so this intersectionality, theory of intersectionality has been extrapolated as an understanding of the inadequacy of the single axis framework. Now what exactly is a single axis framework? So we'll be understanding this. The laws of the state of India that provides legal protection to single axis framework to isolated categories and discriminates against groups where categories overlap, such as Dalit Christians. ठीक है, so isolated जो categories हैं, let us say among Hindu, so in Hindu Dalits, तो उनको तो already provision है, reservation की and all facilities they get, but discriminates Indian or legal protection is not granted to those who are actually groups or categories जहाँ पे overlapping होती है. For example, Christianity, Dalit Christians, क्योंकि Christianity as a religion does not recognize at all the discrimination based on caste. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे सारी इशू यहाँ पे that is called the single axis framework. ठीक है, कि सेम में है तो उसको तो फायदे मिलेंगे, जैसे सपोज हिंदू दलित की बात करें तो they have been given the benefits of this reservation and all, but this is not the case with the Dalit Christians, those who are converted to Christianity. It shows that the various oppressing systems such as race, gender, sexuality and ability cannot be understood in isolation from the other. So such system of power intersect with one another to result in distinctive individual social experiences, and the consequences of such intersectional discrimination is the specificity of discrimination that has been introduced by Kimberley Crenshaw, who is the pioneer of theory of intersectionality. तो theory of intersectionality किसने दी? क्रेनशॉ ने. क्या इंपॉर्टेंट है अभी तक इस आर्टिकल से? The name of KG Balakrishnan Commission, this Rangnath Mishra Commission, and the study that was actually undertaken by the two people, Deshpande and Bapna, which was actually under the aegis of National Commission of Minorities. उसके बाद theory of intersectionality क्या है? यहाँ पे इंटरसेक्शन की बात कर रहा है बिटवीन लेट अस से दिस कास्ट एंड रिलीजन. कास्ट इज हिंदू दलित्स एंड religion is Christianity. Single axis framework means single axis means single same set of caste में अगर हिंदू में हिंदुइज्म में लेटर से रिलीजन में दलित हैं तो उनको रिकॉग्नाइज कर रहे हैं. बट सिंगल एक्सिस फ्रेमवर्क का यही मतलब कि एक्सिस जो है वो सेम होनी चाहिए. ठीक है, मींस विद इन दैट रिलीजन. बट क्रिश्चियन itself doesn't recognize discrimination on the basis of caste. Therefore, how come this be granted or the Dalit Christian could be facilitated with such kind of benefits or advantages जो कि एक हिंदू दलित को मिलता है. So this is what further written in further defined as this intersectionality. So intersectionality and identity. Now the question is of identity. So identity क्या होती है? It is an individual's claim of membership with particular social categories and social identities related to various social categories. किसी भी ग्रुप के साथ जब अपने आप को आप आइडेंटिफाई करना स्टार्ट कर देते हो या उसके बेस पे आप अपने आप को डिफरेंशिएट करते हो, सो वी कॉल यू हैव आइडेंटिटी ऑफ अ पर्टिकुलर और मेंबरशिप ऑफ अ पर्टिकुलर ग्रुप. ठीक है. It must be stated that, like in the case of black women, the term Dalit Christian cannot be understood as a mere addition of the two words, but rather as a distinctive category, as this intersection is unique hybrid creation of multiple social identities. तो ये कह रहे हैं कि जैसे ब्लैक वुमेन है उस तरह से हमें दलित क्रिश्चियन को नहीं समझना चाहिए. रादर this is a hybrid or a unique hybrid of two different terms, that is Dalit, that is Hindu Dalit, and Christian, that is Christianity. So there are two different things. The term Dalit Christian in popular discourse is construed as an oxymoron, that is have an effect of an erroneous logic that Christianity does not recognize casteism, and hence a Hindu Dalit on conversion to Christianity ceases to be a Dalit. And this exactly is the view that the state of India upholds on Dalit Christians. So now you got the idea that why actually government is not granting the benefits of, let us say, the same benefit that a Hindu Dalit actually enjoying to the Dalit Christians, because the state of India or the government itself holds this view that since Christianity does not recognize this discrimination on the basis of caste, therefore they don't deserve to be to get the same benefit that is being given to a Hindu Dalit. So this is the whole issue, and this is the stand of the government. But while the disabilities of Dalit Christians continue after conversion, and the state views them as just Christians, eventually pushing them into an intersectional indivisibility. So this is the issue कि सरकार उनको दलित क्रिश्चियन ट्रीट नहीं करती आफ्टर कन्वर्जन. Government only treats, or the state only treats them as a Christian and not Dalit Christian, remember. That's why. So Amartya Sen कहते हैं कि he explains this as a collectivities of identities to which a person can belong to, providing a particular identity that becomes variously relevant in different contexts. Further, Amartya Sen, Nobel laureate in economics, he says that the priorities over these identities must be relative to the issue at hand, adding that a person can choose a dominant one from such a plurality of identities to avail of benefit. तो ये भी कहीं ना कहीं इन फेवर में है. कहते हैं कि एक जो ग्रुप है या जो लेट अस से दलित हैं, दे हैव द दिस दे कैन चूज अ डोमिनेंट वन फ्रॉम सच अ प्लुरैलिटी ऑफ लेट अस से आइडेंटिटीज टू अवेल ऑफ बेनिफिट. ठीक है, कि अगर उन्होंने कन्वर्ट ही है, अगर उन्होंने क्रिश्चियनिटी को अडॉप्ट कर भी लिया है, ठीक है, so they should get the benefits of SC community that actually being given to a Hindu, this Dalits. Next, a single axis framework. So हुआ क्या कि एक केस आता है सुप्रीम कोर्ट के सामने 1985 and that is called Susai etc versus Union of India and others case 1985. केस क्या था कि एक दलित कैथोलिक शू मेकर Susai moved the Supreme Court of India for an extension in setting up a kiosk on a platform in Madras provided by the state government so that he was on par with Hindu shoemakers. So this is again an issue of, you can say, religion and casteism and all. But the court dismissed the case, stating that it is necessary to establish further that the disabilities and handicaps suffered from such caste membership in the social order of its origin, that is Hinduism, continue in their oppressive severity in the new environment of a different religion's community. कोर्ट ने इसको डिसमिस कर दिया ये कहते हुए कि भाई तुम तो दलित दलित कैथोलिक शू मेकर था, ठीक है, कि दलित क्रिश्चियन एंड अनदर साइड इज द हिंदुइज्म अ हिंदू शू मेकर। तो इस केस में इस डिस्टिंक्शन को ही कोर्ट ने नहीं माना एंड देयरफॉर कोर्ट डिनाइड टू गिव हिम दैट पर्टिकुलर सुसाई the benefits of what he was actually asking for. So this means that the Dalitness of Susai was completely ignored on the use of single axis framework approach. ठीक है? Ashish Nandi argues that the Constitution of India subscribes to the idea that caste-based discrimination exists in Hinduism, Sikhism and Buddhism and extends benefit to its Dalits, but excludes Dalit Christians on the basis of an assumption that Christianity is of foreign import. ठीक है, तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के बेसिस पे अगर हम बात करें तो इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जो है वो हिंदुइज्म, सिखिज्म एंड बुद्धिज्म इन तीनों में जो दलित है उनको तो रिकॉग्नाइज करता है एंड बेनिफिट्स भी फर्दर प्रोवाइड करता है, बट समवेयर दिस इज नॉट बीइंग एक्सटेंडेड टू द दलित क्रिश्चियंस बिकॉज कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अज्यूम्स दैट क्रिश्चियनिटी इज ऑफ अ फॉरेन इंपोर्ट। जो क्रिश्चियनिटी है एक फॉरेन यू कैन से रिलीजन है, making their very democratic citizenship questionable. Thus, the single axis communal framework of the law has resulted in the failure of Dalit Christians being included in the SC list. तो इस वजह से अभी तक इनको include नहीं किया गया है under SC list. Because of the unwillingness of the state, in spite of much evidence in their favor, a way forward therefore lies in the amendment of the 1950 presidential order to include Dalit Christians in the SC list. ठीक है, so this is the way forward. A very good piece of article, fine, taking a balanced stand somewhere, mentioning what's the issue at front, fine. So therefore you should read it and be aware of why the Dalit Christians have not been granted the the same benefits of, let us say, SC community that is under Hinduism or Sikhism or Buddhism, fine. So that's why it becomes important. Next is related to what has been going on in नू गुरुग्राम हरियाणा में जो हुआ, जो वायलेंस हुई थी उससे रिलेटेड है ये। सो बुलडोजिंग द लॉ एंड द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। What is the background first? The Nuh and Gurugram districts of Haryana have just witnessed the reenactment of new normal in Indian politics, and that is the demolition of dwellings and business establishment of people who are accused in criminal cases, especially offences have been communal sensitivity without following the procedures as established by law. जब ऐसा किया गया तो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के द्वारा इन दो जगहों पे नूह एंड हरियाणा डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स दिस गुरुग्राम डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स ऑफ हरियाणा, तो इसके लिए पंजाब और हरियाणा हाई कोर्ट ने सू मोटो लिया। सू मोटो मीन्स टेकिंग द केस बाय इट्स ओन, ठीक है, and made a rare interference by taking judicial notice suo moto and stayed the demolition drive. The High Court courts question whether an exercise of ethnic cleansing is being carried out by the state, bring us to the heart of the issue. So High Court ने पूछा था कि whether you whatever demolition drive you are undertaking isn't it that you are focusing on ethnic cleansing or being targeted to against a one religion, that is Muslim, fine. So this is what the court actually asks. अब इंडियन लॉ में क्या प्रोविजंस हैं कि क्या करना चाहिए था एक्चुअली इस केस में। सो विद इन इंडियन लॉ की बात करें, एथनिक क्लींजिंग इज नॉट डिफाइंड बाय द इंडियन पिनल कोड और इंटरनेशनल लॉ. इट्स फर्स्ट यूज इज एट्रीब्यूटेड टू यूएन अपॉइंटेड कमीशन ऑफ एक्सपोर्ट्स 1992. फाइन. Mandated to look into the war crimes in former Yugoslavia. In its final report, the 5-member commission referred to ethnic cleansing as a purposeful policy designed by one ethnic or religious group to remove by violent and terror-inspiring means the civilian population of another ethnic or religious group from certain geographic areas. So ethnic cleansing means what? Ethnic cleansing means what? Means simple terms. Let us say two different religions are cohabiting a same region, and therefore one has taken such kind of action to cleanse the area of the another religion, let us say, or ethnic people, or get rid of the ethnic people. So despite the lack of a statutory recognition, any such subversive act is grossly inimical to the constitutional guarantees under Part 3 of the India's Constitution. Part 3 is related to the main fundamental rights, major fundamental rights. Hence, the concern and judicial intervention under Article 2 to 6 of the Constitution of India. So, Article 2 to 6 gives, the what? 2 to 6 and 32, that is writ or this power to the high courts actually. 2 to 6 is related to the high court. The law and procedure. So High Court took the cognizance of the fact that the demolition drive was carried out without demolition orders and notices, thereby violative of the procedure established by the law. And Article 21 of the Indian Constitution commands that no person shall be deprived of his life and personal liberty except according to the procedure established by law. In Maneka Gandhi case जो 1978 का है, इसमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने भी यही कहा था, court has extended the scope of procedure established by law by ruling that such procedure has to be fair, just and reasonable and not fanciful, oppressive and arbitrary. So High Court ने ये कहा कि आपने कोई order pass नहीं किया, fine, and demolished or bulldozed. There is in these two districts of Nu and Gurugram, whatever demolition drive you undertook actually was done without demolition orders and notices. Fine. Supreme Court ने भी Maneka Gandhi, and therefore this actually tantamounts to the violation of Article 21. Article 21 in simple terms states or grants the right to personal liberty and right to life and personal liberty. In Maneka Gandhi case 1978, again एक famous और popular case है. Supreme Court ने ये कहा था because it had extended the scope of procedure established by law. Procedure established by law ये होता है कि there are certain sets of procedures. Whenever you are taking some actions, you need to first prove or justify that your action is actually in accordance with the law. Fine. So this procedure would be checked in the first place, thereby introducing the principle of procedural due process. कि जो प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश बाय लॉ है उसके अकॉर्डिंग अगर आपने एक्शन लिया है, सब कुछ फॉलो किया है, तो देन ओनली प्रोसीजरल ड्यू प्रोसेस को आपने फॉलो किया है, अदरवाइज दिस इज इलीगल. Despite such an expansion of the scope of Article 21, it is a constitutional travesty that is scant regard for such basic principles is demonstrated by elected governments. This is not just a case of Haryana, but you can see in many cases as well across the states. Now the rule by law or rule of law or rule by law. So there is a difference between the two. In our constitution under Article 14, everybody is equal before law. Fine. So there should be rule of law. Rule of law is declared a basic feature of the constitution. Rule by law is the antithesis of all that is represented by the rule of law. The rule of law is government run by law, not men. Fine. The roots of the idea of a rule of law can be seen in Article 39 of Magna Carta, that is of Britain, US, that declares that no free man shall be taken or imprisoned or disseized or exiled or in any way destroyed, nor will go upon him nor send upon him. So these are the actually definition, except by the lawful judgment of his peers or by the law of the land. So this civilization journey has since then found its reflection. ये हमें देखने को मिलती है rule of law की किसमें? Article 21 में of the Indian Constitution, and had its counters expanded by the Supreme Court. Fine. Rule by law is when the law is used as an instrument of. So there is a difference between rule of law and rule of by law. So rule of law is of course illegal, and whatever we have explained till now, and this has been somewhat rule of law being reflected in Article 21 itself. While rule by law is when the law is used as an instrument of, you can say, suppression, oppression, and social control. This is very, very important. You should write it somewhere whenever you might be asked, whenever you see get a question related to differentiate between rule of law and rule by law. So rule by law is whenever it is being used as an instrument of tool to for the suppression, oppression, and social control in the course of implementing a political agenda. So this is called rule by law and not the rule of law. The administrative act of demolishing dwellings and buildings without issuing notice and hearing the affected to further selective social control necessarily warrants judicial interference. Any justification to the contrary amounts to the delegitimization of the constitutional process. Fine. Now it is talking about politics, so we won't be going into that. So it is a high time that the courts record such verbal and non-verbal threats issued by elected ministers who are bound by the oath of office. तो देखते हो politicians कुछ भी बोलते रहते हैं मीडिया में आके. So this has been underlined by the author कि ऐसे भी verbal and non-verbal जो threats ये लोग बोलते हैं इशू करते हैं इन पब्लिक डोमेन, उस पे भी एक्शन कोर्ट को लेना चाहिए because this is in violation of the oath of office they have taken as a minister. Fine. The path to justice. It is no one's case that the people who create unrest in the society should not be dealt with as per law. What is derided is the administrative animosity which turns into colorable exercise of power. It is one thing to prosecute the accused, it is another to render his family or neighbor shelterless. Of course, there is a difference. एक को prosecute करना है, क्रिमिनल को सजा देना is one thing, but उसके घर को demolish कर देना है, उसकी family को बर्बाद कर देना, that is another thing. Fine. So justice must never take the form of revenge, recited the then Chief Justice S.S. Bobde in 2019 in a different context. When police allegedly took law into their hand and shot dead the accused, when the state tends to persecute on the basis of religion, the constitution suffers a breakdown and constitutional courts are expected to prevent such happenings. They rest the hope of the republic. Fine. So this was written by a lawyer, senior lawyer in the Supreme Court. Fine. So the hope of the republic lies in the hands of course, the courts. So therefore, the court's intervention becomes paramount in such scenario. Okay. Next, related to the Maya OS, that is indigenous built operating system. OS is operating system. So why is India's Defense Ministry ditching Microsoft Windows for Maya OS? So Ministry of Defense is actually replacing Windows based operating system with the indigenous built Maya OS. Name is Maya actually. So India's Defense Ministry has decided to replace this Microsoft operating system in all its computers that can connect to the internet with Maya. Maya is an Ubuntu based OS that has been built indigenously locally. Ubuntu is basically a Linux based platform, open source platform जिसपे कि ये बनाया गया. The new OS is currently being rolled out only in the Defense Ministry computers. So remember, the question might be framed by UPSC only, that is the new OS is currently being rolled out only in the defense or being used only for the defense purposes or Defense Ministry computers. So yes, this is correct, and not the three services. तो यहाँ पे भी बहुत बड़ी डिफरेंस है कि सिर्फ डिफेंस मिनिस्ट्री के कंप्यूटर्स पे अभी यूज होंगे, ना कि across the three services. While the Navy is said to have cleared Maya for use in its systems, the Army and the Air Force are still evaluating the software. Fine. So Maya has been developed by Indian government agencies within 6 months, and it is aimed at preventing malware attacks by cyber criminals who are increasingly targeting critical infrastructure and government agency. Critical infrastructure होते हैं जो कंट्री के लिए बड़े स्ट्रेटेजिक होते हैं या इंपॉर्टेंट, बहुत ही ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. फॉर एग्जांपल पावर ग्रिड्स. आप लोगों ने देखा होगा कि चाइना के किसी हैकर ने पावर ग्रिड इंडिया का जो है वो महाराष्ट्र साइड अटैक कर दिया था, उस पर भी तो शट डाउन हो जाते हैं. द न्यू ओएस विल बी बैक्ड बाय प्रोटेक्शन सिस्टम कॉल्ड चक्रव्यूह. तो चक्रव्यूह क्या है, जो इस न्यू ओएस को बेसिकली प्रोटेक्शन प्रोवाइड करेगा. दिस एंड पॉइंट सिस्टम इज ऑल्सो बीइंग डिप्लॉयड इन द कंप्यूटर्स दैट हैव माया इंस्टॉल्ड. फाइन. बट डिफरेंस क्या है दोनों में? But how effective is this new OS and how does it differ from Microsoft's Windows? So while the two operating systems provide a platform for the user to interact with the computer hardware, Maya and Windows differ significantly, both in terms of cost and build-up. Windows is a commercial software sold by Microsoft for a license fee, जैसे कि हम यूज करते हैं अपने PCs and laptops में. ठीक है? It is the most widely used OS and is easy to install and run. Devices powered by Microsoft OS run on the Windows NT kernel. A kernel is the core of an operating system. It runs on computers random access memory, RAM जिसको हम बोलते हैं कि जितनी ज़्यादा RAM हो उतना बढ़िया, उतना फास्ट चलता है कंप्यूटर, and gives the device instructions on how to perform a specific task. So this is all about your Microsoft OS operating system. Now what about Maya? So difference actually lies in the core or the kernel. Kernel This design was monolithic, meaning a single program contained all necessary codes to perform kernel related tasks. Limitations जो है but it was also large and difficult to maintain as the lines of codes ran in millions. Limitations in the traditional architecture led to a new kernel design called the microkernel. This design broke down the monolithic system into multiple small servers that communicate through a smaller kernel. So you see कि earlier traditional में क्या था कि there were lots of codes actually being used, and you can see lines of codes ran in the millions. But now with the microkernel, this design has been broken down to the monolithic system into multiple small servers that communicate through small kernel used. Windows runs on hybrid kernel architecture, which is microkernel design coupled with additional cores that help enhance performance. And Ubuntu is basically on which a Linux OS on which Maya operating system is actually based, that was used to build Maya runs on monolithic architecture. So this is the one of the difference. The OS जो है Windows OS, it uses hybrid kind of kernel system, find the core of actually this whole architecture of OS, while Linux जो है Ubuntu जो है is a Linux kind of OS जिसपे कि Maya OS best है, and it uses just the issue is it runs on monolithic architecture and not on the hybrid one. So this is one of the major differences. But remember, even Androids that we use is also based on the Linux kernel only. Fine. So cyber threats and malware. Of course, India's switch to the Ubuntu-based Maya OS comes at a time when cyberspace is increasingly becoming vulnerable to malware and ransomware attacks. And almost 3-year-old cyber attacks made government around the world rethink their cyber strategy. Okay, so this is why the government is actually focusing more and more towards getting a system or operating system which should be fully protected against malware and ransomware attacks. Malware kind of virus software actually, which is a virus which is being installed on your system, so it attacks or especially your files. प्लस रैंसमवेयर में रैंसम आपसे मांगी जाती है, दैट इज फिरौती, आपकी सिस्टम को अगेन नॉर्मलाइज करने के लिए आपसे कुछ उसके बदले में फिरौती मांगी जाती है, दिस इज रैंसम, यू नीड टू पे समथिंग इन ऑर्डर टू गेट बैक योर ओरिजिनल दिस सिस्टम बैक टू नॉर्मल. सो दीज आर द इश्यूज. ओपन सोर्स फ्यूचर, तो फ्यूचर का सारा जो है ओपन सोर्स पे. ओपन सोर्स में क्या होता है कि ओपन सोर्स में तो जो कोर है, फंडामेंटल्स है, ओपनली सोर्स्ड, मींस कोड्स पब्लिकली उसको चेंज किया जा सकता है ओपन डोमेन में. ठीक है, जैसा कि जो सेतु ऐप था एक्चुअली कोविड के टाइम पे जो यूज होता था, तो वो भी इसी पर्पस के लिए था, आरोग्य सेतु ऐप. सच साइबर थ्रेट्स दैट वाज ओपन सोर्स एक्चुअली. Such cyber threats arising from proprietary software are once again making global governments look to free and open source software first to develop their own OS. According to findings from survey by the Center of Strategic and International Studies, says CISS, a total of 669 open source policy initiatives were taken by the governments around the world between this 1999 and 2022. After a spike in using FOSS in 2003, interest in such software continued to be constant overall. So while the SolarWinds attacks has brought home the graveness of the cyber threat, the move to Maya underscores the Indian government's emphasis on using open source software to build on the Indian stack model. Fine, but such a switch to open source software would take many years because only sensitive ministries will make the switch in the near term. Okay, like defense ministry. Okay, so it will take time. It is going to be a slow process, but of course a gradual process, though take time, but somewhere would provide protection against or foolproof security against, let us say, malware and ransomware. Fine. So this is related to the panchayats and all, need not to go into that. High Court ने stay कर दिया है IT proceedings against NGO, that is Oxfam India. Oxfam gives a report about the inequality, level of inequality and all. Okay. You see unviable Arunachal Hydel projects given to central PSUs. And again, we are somewhere not caring about the nature, and an Assam-based hydrologist said these projects should not have been taken up in the first place. ठीक है, considering the geography of these actually regions. मीटिंग नेट जीरो गोल, तो इसलिए हमारा फोकस ये है कि नेट जीरो गोल मीट करने के लिए ज़रूरी है कि हम हाइडल प्रोजेक्ट्स मीन्स रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा जनरेट कर पाएँ, बट it should not come at the cost of the, of course, natural resource, nature especially. We should not interfere much with them, but somehow this is again being granted to the government PSU. India China to hold military talks today after many rounds of this talks. Even today this has been scheduled to be taken place. चलो अच्छी बात है, बातचीत करके कुछ निकलेगा क्रूड. This is important related to the tribe. The tribe is Elagiri. Hut shelters 200 years of hill tribe history. So more than 2 centuries ago, over 200 Malayali tribes people built traditional clay huts on the flat peak of the picturesque Elagiri hill in what is now northern Tamil Nadu. ठीक है, मतलब क्या है, what exactly Malayali tribe means? So Malayali tribe, Malay meaning hill and Yali meaning people, is spread across Tamil Nadu's hilly regions. The tribe's people were foragers who settled in the upper Nilavu region of Elagiri, and that is in northern Tamil Nadu. Began cultivating its stable topic for food. Initially living in makeshift huts, they found permanent solution in the red loam clay abundant in the hills and constructed simple one-room structures. Worth of fortune. Red clay is very important to us for building such kind of huts and all. You see, these are the reds. You see, ये लाल लाल दिख रहे हैं सारे. So they actually lives in the huts. A unique feature of their huts or mud houses is that it stands on a stilt-like structure made up of teak wood. Fine, but they are changing with the time as well. Today, all that remains in the hut is a 3-foot-long clay pot and the remnant of straw attic that once held an entire year's worth of grains and seeds. So, आज भी ये लोग ये चीज़ को clay pot and straw attic, that is basically used for storing granary kind of things. Fine. So this is actually, so आज के टाइम में ये टूरिस्ट स्पॉट्स बन चुकी हैं because tourists enjoy seeing this traditional structure and they get a glimpse into tribes culture. Fine. So इस वजह से with better access to education, employment and financial resources, the tribes have adopted a modern lifestyle and the traditional hut no longer serves as a purpose that it once said. This goes on to show that how they have managed to evolve with changing times. Fine. So this is one of the good examples you can show that how the tribes, actually 200-old tribes, embracing the modernity or changing themselves, adopting the modernity. Fine. So this can be quoted somewhere. Any question related to tribes. Okay. SC proposes permanent security units for all courts. So all courts की इंडिया में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक अलग से permanent security unit propose की है. ठीक है. अब सरकार मानती है नहीं मानती देखना पड़ेगा. Finally, we have landed on the world page. Okay. Nothing much, just violence and killings only. Hawaii Island, one of the most sought tourist destination today, suffering from, let us say, wildfire, and this has resulted in the death of around 93 people there. You can see the consequences of climate change and all. Finally, we have landed on the sports page. So that's it as far as today's Hindu discussion is concerned. Let us quickly have a look at the questions from the today's paper itself. So these are the two questions, one for prelims, other for mains. The first question is, Consider the following. More than 2 centuries ago, over 200 Malayali tribes people built traditional clay huts on the flat peak of the Yelagiri hill. The hill is being located in what is now northern Kerala, and red clay is very important to them. So out of these 3 statements, you need to pick the correct pairs. Second is for the mains, the administrative act of demolishing dwellings and buildings without issuing notices and hearing the affected to further selective social control necessarily warrants judicial interference. You need to comment. The question is for 15 marks, fine, and you need to write the same in the 250 words. You can say this. So these are the 2 questions from the today's Hindu discussion, fine. If you want to take this screenshot, you can have the same, fine. So do try to solve them, fine. We'll be discussing the same and not tomorrow, because tomorrow is the Independence Day Eve. So best wishes to all of you. Enjoy, celebrate the 77th Independence Day, fine, and we'll be discussing the same the very next day, that is on 16th of August, fine. So until then, take care, keep revising, and do solve these questions. Thank you.